I had it on this sheet too. Back up so you can be in the picture.
Is this the wrong place?
What is it? Yeah, paragraph.
What
I
number?
don't see any better. We're the only one on so far. Chapter 15, is that test Bob or test I? Test Bob, huh? Yeah, so that's the right one.
What person?
I'm not sure.
Hello? They don't hear us.
Shavua Tov.
Can't hear you.
Can you hear us?
Uh-oh. What's
You
wrong?
hear us? You hear us?
Can you hear us?
Bernie,
We can't hear us.
we're okay. We're
Oh,
not,
no,
we're not
maybe-
muted.
Here, let's go open. Can they hear us?
Bernie,
I get the phone.
Get
I
to
guess
phone.
not.
Correct?
can you hear us? Carol?
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Okay, Bernie has a problem hearing. Hi,
Hi,
baby.
Fakey.
Hi, good Martov to everybody. Martov.
Oh, there's something wrong.
I
I
wanna make-
don't know what it is.
It's the sound.
No kidding. 544663.
Wow.
We know it, Pasuk?
Yeah, Ted Zion.
Can you go back a little bit? please?
Recording in progress.
I don't know what's wrong with my. Okay.
We ran into an issue. Restart. You gotta restart it.
Restart.
We hear you.
We can
We
hear
hear
you.
you.
We hear you, Bernie.
Magda, we hear
Can you
you.
hear me now?
Yeah, we have to restart it.
Because I don't know what's
something
wrong with my
Martha,
desktop.
we
I'm
hear
on my
you.
cell
Carol,
phone.
we can hear you, Magda.
We can hear you.
Oh, that's not the Zoom?
No, that's a
We hear
different.
you.
We can hear you.
Okay,
Carol.
good, okay.
You can't get it on the computer
No,
then?
no. Okay,
What pasuk?
Bernie will tell us.
Ted Zion. Ted
That's
Zion.
Bob. That's Bob?
It's
No?
Bob. We didn't finish the story of Avshalom.
That's Bob.
Ted Vav. Yeah, we finished Ted Vav.
But do it again.
We talked about Ted Vav was Vayomru avdei hamelech el hamelech kechol asher yivcharni hamelech hinei avadecha. The David and his entourage are now going to flee Yerushalayim, escaping from Avshalom. And we talked about that even though David is fleeing, there was order. He had his people around him. There was some kind of seder. And we talked about that whenever there's chaos, that's where the Satan is. And where there's seder, there's shchinas there. So when David saw that the machane of his was the seder, they went out not in chaos, but in an order. He knew that the shechina was still with him, and that he was gonna able to overcome this. And we talked about Queen Elizabeth, that there's a concept of malchus that is, like we go into Rosh Hashanah with the concept of malchus. When you see even a melech basar v'dam, it's supposed to fill you with with the feeling of Hashem running the world. And I brought from Devorim, it says Vatikrivuna like Kulchem. Moshe Rabbeinu says, you all gathered against me or around me. Kan b'meraglim ba'u birbu. When the meraglim came, they came in a state of chaos. But at another episode, it says Vatikrivuna like kol roshei shiftechem v'ziknechem. And when you came to me, you came in an order with the Nesiim of the Shvatim and the elders. Also, Kreva Haisa Chogeges Yolodim Echadim Zaskenim, the young respected the old, and the elders respected the Nesiim. But with the Meraglim was chaos. Children pushing aside the older, and the elders pushing aside the Nesiim. So the Makom Shiyes Seder Shama Shechina Shruya. The Shechina has a because the Shechina was also, when we built the Mishkan, it was an order. Everybody was encamped around the Mishkan in very order with the Golim. The Makom Shiyes Urburvia Shama Sotan Shori. When there's chaos, you can believe that the Sotan is there. And as I said, Kishirot David Shiyes Seder B'machna Shalo Mizehevin Sheshchina Lo Nistal Kaman Vaz Gam B'tzras Yischilo Mar Mizmor. When he saw that there was he realized that the Shechina was still with him, and he said the Mizmor Bevorcho Mifnei Avshalom. One of the Tehillim is a Mizmor that he says when he is escaping from Avshalom. It said it here because he was filled with a feeling that the Shechina had not left him. Hi, Tzvi.
Maybe she can get a link.
Betty, do you have a Zoom? Mario?
I send the information.
No, can you send her a Zoom link
I did.
in an email?
No, I sent the message in WhatsApp.
Betty, Mario sent you an link in a WhatsApp.
Not the link. I send her what the meeting is and the password is. She has
Not
to.
a link. You have to open up. You have to
Zoom.
download Zoom. You have it on your you have it on your laptop?
Nobody.
Okay, in our system, you have to have Zoom. As you can download Zoom. You just go to
Zoom.com.
Yeah, go to Zoom. No, you go to your iPhone or your app store and you say Zoom, and you'll quickly download it. And then when you join, what do you do?
Open it.
You
You
join,
open it.
You say join a meeting, and it asks you for a password, and you put the password. not the
First the meeting number, then the
First you
password.
put the meeting number, and then you'll put the password. Yeah, and if Mario, can you send her a link? Do we have such a link? Do we have such a thing?
Is she going to work it from the phone or
Yeah,
from
from her
the?
phone, from her phone.
Then she has to go to the Apple store and get it down the
No,
Zoom.
from the phone, you're still gonna have to get the Zoom. Even if we send you a link, it's not gonna work.
you have to go to the App Store and put in Zoom.
It's still gonna, you're gonna need the program Zoom to click on that link.
Okay, let me see if I can.
Go on the App Store on the phone.
Yeah, it's.
No, you could send it to Mario, send it to her email. That way she can watch it on the computer instead of her phone. She still
But she has to download
still
Zoom
have to
anyhow.
download Zoom anyways there as well. On your computer, you have to just go to zoom.com and it'll say, can you download from zoom.com?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
But you can also go on your phone and go to the App Store and just press Zoom,
Yeah, you have it in your, you can do it either way.
and then she'll do join a meeting, and then she'll put in the
When you
numbers.
get Zoom, it'll say join a meeting. When you join a meeting,
She'll
we'll
put
give
in-
you the numbers and you can put in the numbers that we sent you.
And then the password.
She has to make sure that you might need a password for the App Store for you to be able to download.
Right.
Not on the computer.
No, like Susie and I use a laptop. Most of the people use a laptop.
I'm using an iPad.
Oh, no, Ellen uses an iPad. Okay. Just download the Zoom should happen right away.
But then she has to put in the numbers that. Maria
Maybe
gives.
now do it with the phone, it'll be quicker, and then when I come over to see Tzvika, I can show you how you do it on the laptop. Okay, bye-bye.
Sorry, Ernie, what pasuk and what parak you on? Because I don't think we completed parak Tesvav.
No, I'm in Perek Tesvav.
What
and
pasuk, please?
And I reviewed Pasuk Tesvav.
Ah, okay.
Okay, now we'll go to Pasuk Tet Zayin. Vayetzei HaMelech v'chol beito b'raglav. So David leaves Yerushalayim with his household. Vayazov HaMelech et eser nashim pilagshim lishmor habayit. He leaves behind his 10 pilagshim. Remember, pilagshim are wives, but it's machlokas rishonim. Some say they have kiddushin, some say they don't have kiddushin. We're going to see what happens with these. There's a reason why it's important for us to note that these pilagshim were left behind, because Avshalom is going to be given some advice what to do with these pilagshim. The pilagshim are left behind. They left with their feet, and they were, the Medrash Shmuel says they went to Har HaZeitim, where we know is to the east of the Beis HaMikdash, where it was, Har HaBayis, and they're looking at Yerushalayim sort of with bad feeling that they have to leave. V'chol avadav yudches, v'chol avadav ovrim al yado, v'chol ha'kresi, v'chol ha'plesi. He has his servants. Now, the definition of kresi or plesi are the archers, the bow and arrow people, and the slingers, the ones that throw rocks. But we're going to see Chazal interpret different ways. The Radak and the Rabag bring that they're famous families, and Chazal say that they're the Sanhedrin. They use the word kresi and plesi to say that, and others say that it was the Urim V'Tumim. And why is it the Sanhedrin? Because it goes on, with their words, they cut all the halachas. So from the word kores, that they speak out all the various halachas. So the Sanhedrin went with him. V'chol hagitim sheish meot ish. If you remember, David went to hide out by Melech Achish, Melech Gat. So these were gitim, machlokes. Either some say they were Jews who lived there. Some say they were not Jews. They were gitim who followed David. Asher ba'al b'raglav migat ovrim al pnei HaMelech, who served also Hashem. They sort of fell under David's reign after he spent time there. The Radak says, Amru ki goyim hayu. V'chein itai hagiti goy haya. We're going to be introduced to Iti, the Giti, Itai, the Giti, soon. However, Radak says, Ulefi daiti ki Yisraelim hayu. Shayim mitgoyrim, because they were just living there. Ubo atal Ezra's David. They came to help David now, when they heard that David was in trouble. So they were very loyal to David HaMelech.
Itai was a ger. Is that correct?
So you see, the Radak says some hold that both the Gitim that are referred to here and Itai Agiti was a non-Jew. But the Radak says his opinion is that they were Jews who lived in Gat, who now come to the aid of David HaMelech. So, Vayomer HaMelech el Itai Agiti. David says to Itai, Lama telech gam ata itanu? You should not come with us. Shuv v'shevim HaMelech ki nochri ata. You're a non-Jew. V'gam golei ata limkomcha. You're far from your house. You should go back. We are going to be running away. We're not going to have food and drink. Not only that, because you're a non-Jew, it's going to be, Rashi learns that people will not be merachim on you. They won't give you to eat or drink. So, from the fact that the pasuk says that he's a Nochri, it seems clear that he was not a Jew. But you see, the Radak already brings this discussion that there's a debate, maybe he was Jewish. Now, in Kiddushin, Ayin Vav, Rabbi Chanani ben Antigna Soimer, Af Misha Yamuchtav Bestroit Melach, no one had to, if you were in the sort of in the service of David HaMelech, they didn't have to check your yichus. Your yichus was good. So the Gemara there seems to suggest that there's Itai Agiti. Hachanami de Yosef Begas, he lived in Gas. He was Jewish, but lived in Gas. And some say after he was a goy because they bring a Gemara in Avodah Zarah that he was able to be mevatel in Avodah Zarah, and only a non-Jew has the power to be mevatel in Avodah Zarah. So he must have been a goy at that time. Later on, he must have been this guy and became Jewish according to the Radak. Now, on a side note, can you give tzedakah to a non-Jew? It says in Gemara Gittin, Samech Aleph, Mefarnesin aniye akum im aniye Yisrael mishum darkei shalom. So not me'ikar adin, but because of peace, because of we want to live well with our neighbors, we do give charity to non-Jews. So why was David HaMelech concerned that Bnei Yisrael would not give charity to Itai? So the Bach explains, because you only give Aniyei Akum when they're Aniyei Yisrael, because then there's Darkei Shalom. But if he comes alone, you don't have to necessarily give him. It's a societal issue. Pasuk Chav. T'mol bo'echa v'hayom aniyacha imanu laleches v'ani olech al asher ani olech shuv v'ashevet achecha imach chesed v'yamet. Again, David tries to convince Itai Agiti to go back with the Gitim and not go with him. Now, normally, the words chesed v'emes refers to complete righteousness. It's usually referred to when you bury somebody. When you give somebody chesed without the expectation you're going to get it back, that's called chesed shalemes. That's true chesed. When you bury somebody, well, you're never going to get anything back from that person. So that's why it's considered chesed shalemes. Let's see something here. It was mentioned by Yaakov Avinu when he asked Yosef to make sure he gets buried in Eretz Canaan, because Yaakov knew that he wouldn't be able to return the favor. Well, here David HaMelech is now thinking that he's being deposed as the Melech. And he's thinking that the chesed that's going to be given to him, he's not going to be able to repay. That's the connection between why it says chesed shemes here. Pasuk Chalav, Pasuk Chaf Aleph. Did Betty make it in? Let me see here. No. Okay. Vayan Itai Samelech Vayomar. Chai Hashem v'cherni Hamelech. Ki b'mokom asher yershem arni Hamelech im lomoves im l'chaim ki sham yavdecha. Itai Agiti expresses very strong loyalty to David HaMelech, that wherever you are, alive or dead, that's where I'm going to be. Now, the Radak here points out in Pasuk Chaf was, in this Pasuk, Vayani Tat HaMelech Vayomar, Chai Hashem v'cherni HaMelech, Ki, the word im is written, but we don't read it, right? You see we have kri uksiv. We have things that are written. Sometimes we read it a different way than it's written. It says yishgalena in the Tochachon. We read it yishkavena because it's a cleaner language. So what is this concept of kri uksiv? Betty, it looks like you made it in. Welcome. So the Radak, now here, the word im is written, but not read. What is this issue with Kri Uksiv? We have it everywhere in the Torah, in the Megillah. Look in Pasuk. Vayani Tata Melech Vayomer Chai Hashem v'chei Adoni HaMelech Ki im b'mokom. Im is not read; it's ksiv v'lo kri. Normally we have it written and we read it a different way. Here, it's not even read. We read it ki bimkom asher yeshem Adoni HaMelech im lemaves im lachayim ki sham yavdecha. So if you would look in the Tanakh, in the Megillah, it would write im, but we don't read it. So it's ksiv v'lo kri. So we are on Shmuel Beis, Perek Tes Vav, Pasuk Chaf Aleph. So in the Radak says, he explains, what is the yesod of kri uksiv? Ve'anyan echad im kri o lo kri, v'amilot ha'ele dechtiv lo kohen. These things that we read or we don't read, but things that were written and we don't read it, o dekorim v'lo ksivin, v'chein kri uksiv, nireh. Says the Radak, ki begalut harishon avdu asfarim. When Nebuchadnezzar destroyed Bayis Rishon and they went into Golus, many of the swarm got lost. V'nitaltalu v'nitaltalu v'chachamim yodei mikra mesu. The chachamim who were expert at Tanakh and the words that are in Tanakh died. V'anshei knesses hagdoila shechziru haTorah liyoshna. So 70 years later, when Mordechai and Malachi, Chagai, and Zechariah came back, so they had different svarim, but they had in one sefer, it had the word im, and in another sefer, it didn't have the word im. So they went after the majority. Uvemokom shlo yisigem daitem ala borur. If they weren't clear, kosfu echad v'loy noktu. So they would write a word, but they did not give it its vowel. Right? In the Torah, you have a word, but there's no vowels there. And they left it purposely without vowels. Or they don't even write it at all. Or Makshim al zeh mimad matzinu gam b'sefer Ezra kri uchsiv echad veich Ezra magia lo yada divrei atzmo. There's a kasha where Ezra Soifer was the one who corrected everything. So how could in Sefer Ezra we have the same problem? Now the Abarbanel brings the Radak. He asks kashas on them that Ezra Soifer found the Torah Elokim and Ruach HaKodesh, and there was a confusion. Every Sefer Torah that's missing one letter is possible. So certainly the Kriya Ksiv that comes in the Torah, because we have Kriya Ksivs in the Torah, how could it be? So the Abarbanel gave a different understanding in Kriya Ksiv. She'ezra v'anshei Knesset Agdola matzu sifrei Torah b'shleimusam v'tamusam k'mo shenichtavu. Ezra and Anshe Knesset found complete Sefer Torahs. There were no missings. The Kodem Shit Orer Ezra Lasota Nekud Vatamim. Before Ezra decided what vowelation each word should have and what trumpet should have, the Sofi Apsukim, and what should be a soft pasuk, Ayin B'Mikra, the Hadvorm Asher Niru Elav Zarim K'fi Tev Aloshim Kavanat HaSipur, Chashav Machmo Shaya Zela Achmi Beisibos. He would find some words that were strange there. Im Shekivina Koisa Bidvar Mazarmaim Sod Min Asodos Misisra Torah. It could have been some kind of secret that the Torah wanted to keep that way. Kefi Malas Nevuato V'Omechach Baso. Ezra was a Navi. V'lachein Lo Milu Yado La Geshes Yadav L'Mchok Davar Misifra Elokim. He wouldn't erase it from the Sefer Torah. Ki Evin B'Dato Shebechachma Yisera Nichtavu Kach. He might not understand why this word is there, but it was written with ultimate wisdom. And there was a reason why the Torah wrote it this way. He left these words there. But if when you read it, it didn't make sense, the din was that you didn't read it. So it was left in place. This word im was left in place. We don't read it because it doesn't fit. There's a third opinion. The Maral in Sefer Tiferes Yisrael. Perek Samech Vav. So he comments l'chora about the other great Rishonim that commented on that. He says, "Sholech Yad B'Neviim." They try to say that the Neviim made mistakes. The Divru Dvorma Shalo Zichram Adam Ha'olam Shanavim Lo Yodu Lashon. The Neviim didn't know Digduk. He says, "Ein Lashiv Al Divrei Buros Ka'elu." Mikol sheken ki elu anoshim sar min darchei hachachamim. Ukriye lecham chachamim yoseh mi Rabbeinu Zal. Sha'amru b'Gemara, kriyin v'lo ksivin, ksivin v'lo kriyin, halach l'Moshe Misinai. In Nedarim Lamed Zayid, Amud Beis, he says that the kris and ksivs are halach l'Moshe Misinai. And all these other reasons that were given by the Radak and the Barbanel, the Maral doesn't agree with. Okay, anyways, interesting understanding in Kriya Ksiv. So we are now in Pasuk Perek Tezvav, Pasuk Chav Beis. Vayomer David el Itai lech vavor, vayavor itay gediv cholashav cholatav asher ito. So David says, fine, come with our people, you'll come with us, we're happy to have you. Everybody around was crying as David is leaving the city. the cholam ovrim al pnei derech et hamidbar. They cross Nachal Kidron, which is close to Yerushalayim, and they go into the desert. All of this is to escape Avshalom. Chav Dalet. V'hinei gam tzadok v'chol halvi'i mito. Tzadok is the Kohen Gadol. And the Leviim nosim et Aron brit Elokim. They decide to take the Aron with them. Remember, right now, there's no Beit HaMikdash. The Beit HaMikdash is only going to be built by Shlomo. The Mizbeach is in the city of Givon. The Aron, remember, was brought by David HaMelech when he was dancing. And it's in Ir David, it's in an OL, in a tent. It's not brought into the Beit HaMikdash until many years later when Shlomo HaMelech builds the Beit HaMikdash. So the Aron, Tzadok HaKohen decides to take the Aron. Vayatziku et Aron Elokim, Vayal Evyatar ad Tom Kol Ha'am Lavor Min Ha'ir. And Evyatar is also a Kohen. Excuse me. Evyatar is the Kohen Gadol. Tzadok is not the Kohen Gadol. And Chazal explain. Kan Evyatar Shahaya Mizera Itamar Ubnei Banav Shel Eli HaKohen Nistalek Achshav Min HaKuna Gdola. This is the moment when the prophecy that was prophesied that eventually the Kohen Gadol is going to be ripped away from Eli's descendants. Evyasar is Eli HaKohen's descendants. So now that's why it says here, Vayal Evyatar. Evyatar leaves, V'chnisu et Tzadok, who was Meibonav Shel Pinchas ben Elazar. The Kohen Gadol is not going to be from the children of Pinchas, of Elazar, and Evyatar was from Itamar. Now, it says in Gemara, Yuma Ayin Gimel Omid Beis, Kol Kohen Sheina Medaber Baruch HaKodesh Ushchina Shoira Alav. Any Kohen that cannot have Ruach HaKodesh, so Ein Shoalim Bo. You can't use that Kohen Gadol to ask with the Urim V'Tumim. Sharei Shol Tzadok v'Also lo, Evyaser v'lo also lo. Because when they asked the Urim V'Tumim, when Tzadok asked, they answered him. When Evyaser asked, they didn't answer him. Shenemar vayal Evyatar atom kolam. So Chazal learned from this pasuk that this is the place where the Kohen Gadol was switched from Evyatar to Tzadok HaKohen.
Ernie, the the Mayam Lois comments that Sodo, the reason that they took the Aron HaKodesh is because Tzadok saw Baruch HaKodesh that David would be victorious in the ultimate battle with Avshalom here, and so he took it. That's why the pasuk only says Tzadok and didn't include Evyatar.
And this is the place where Tzadok takes the role of Kohen Gadol. He wasn't Nimshach LeKohen Gadol yet, and we'll see that his formal rise to the Kohen Gadol happens only after Shlomo HaMelech. At that time, it says Vayimshechu l'Shlomo l'Hashem l'Nagid l'Tzadok l'Kohen. But basically, it occurs here, the switch, and Chazal say that from this until that time, both Evyaser and Tzadok worked as a Kohen Gadol. He didn't get, Evyaser wasn't thrown out completely, because it says later on that Shlomo chased away Evyaser. So he must have sat in that position until then.
So one of the opinions is that Avyasar was actually plotting with Avshalom, and perhaps that's David HaMelech realized that.
Correct. Vayomer pasuk chafei. Vayomer HaMelech l'Tzadok. Hashevet Aron Elokim ha'ir. David HaMelech thinks it's a bizoyon for the Aron to go with them to protect David. David was concerned about the covet of the Aron. So he tells Tzadok, bring the Aron back. He thinks it's going to be more covered for the Aron to stay where it is. If Hashem will reveal to me through a Navi, or if Avshalom defeats me in Milchama, showing that Hashem doesn't want me, I will be makabel ba'ava. He will accept what Hashem is going to do. Remember, David knows that he was given a harsh gzeira by Nosna Navi. He's willing to accept. And in the Yalkut, yes, brings what Bernie said, that Tzadok asked the Urim V'Tumim and was told Baruch HaKodesh that David was going to win. The Malbim says that they asked Im Yatzliach and would he return to Yerushalayim. And he was told both that he would return to Yerushalayim b'shalom. Pasuk Chav Zayin. Right? Vayomer Melech al Tzadok HaKohen haro'eh tashuva ha'ir b'shalom v'achimatz bincha v'Yonatan ben Aviatar shnei v'neichem itchem. So he said, you Tzadok, you're going to go back in peace to the city. Again, he's speaking to Tzadok because he was the one who was answering the Urim V'Tumim. And he tells him, listen, take your two sons. He's now going to set up a secret network, David, of people that are going to stick around in Yerushalayim. Avshalom's going to come back, and they're going to inform David HaMelech of what's going on with Avshalom. So Tzadok and his sons are being set up to be this type of part of the secret network. Ru anochi mitmamea ve'arvot hamidbar. I am leaving quickly in the sands of the desert. And adbot davar mimchem lagid li. Now, if you have information to send me, you're going to send it to me. Chav tes vayoshev tzadok ve'vyater taranol ki Mishalayim vayeshu sham. Tzadok listens to David. They go back with the Aron and they stay in Yerushalayim. V'David oleh b'malei hazeitim. Again, he goes up to Har HaZeitim to daven and to bow to Hashem. Oleh uvocheh, crying. V'rosh l'chafui, he's putting ash on his head. V'olech yachef, he's going like barefoot. V'chol amar sheito chafui ish rosho v'alu alo v'achol. This is a symbol of mourning. Says Chazal, David haya menuda b'osa shisha chadoshim sherodav achrav shalom. David was like put into cherem in those 6 months that he was running away from Avshalom. Like it says, B'midbar Rabbah, that for 6 months he was benidui. It says in Sanhedrin, Kuf Zayin Amar Aleph, Amar Vid Amarav, Shisha Chadoshim Nitztara David v'Nistalke Menu Shchina, U'Pershim Menu Sanhedrin. For 6 months, David was a leper, and the Shechina left him, and Sanhedrin left him. Now, which 6 months was the debate? So some hold that this 6 months was the 6 months that he ran away from Avshalom. There's other chazal based on this pasuk. Bracha Zayin on the base. On Rav Yochanan Mishum Hashem ben Yochai. Kasha tarbus rabatoch beiso shalod meyosem mechemes gogul magul. Having not proper education in your home is worse than mechemes gogul magul. And obviously, Avshalom grew up in David's home. There's some kind of problem there that led to Avshalom. And the Musar Nevi'im points out, there's another, in Shmos Rabbah, it says, Kolomanea b'noy min amardus sov bala tarbus ravasoneu. if you don't punish your children properly, it's going to lead to bad education. They're going to come to hate you. David shlo yasser l'Avshalom b'no v'lo radeyu. We remember that after the rape of, first of all, he didn't chastise Amnon when he raped his sister Tamar. And then somehow after he killed Avshalom, we had a discussion, did David punish Avshalom enough? So this matter says, because David, lo yasser l'Avshalom b'no v'lo radeyu, yasser l'tarbus ro vikesh largo saviv. It ended up that Avshalom rebelled against his father, wanted to kill him. V'garam lo leilech yochevu bocher, led to David having to go around like a mourner crying. V'naflu miYisrael kama alofim v'kama revavos. Says the Musar Nevi'im. V'atamu ki yefshar haya leDavid la'ora katarega gedola al Avshalom b'no. How could he complain about Avshalom? Ki oto kategor tasol v'sof alatzmo. Sharei hu emid v'hoylitz haresha hazeh. He's the one who gave birth to Avshalom. V'od ki rachme av merome v'yefshar l'katreg alav l'spala mapoloso. He's not going to be able to daven for Avshalom's downfall. It's his son. Mashenkin v'machem is Gog uMagog. There you can daven for their downfall. So it was really David was between a rock and a hard place here. So you got to be careful. You see by Yishmael that Avram didn't necessarily punish him either, and he ended up with Tarbus Ra. Then it says by Yitzchak, Vayakumu l'tzachek, Matzinu be'esav, Shaylo gagum etzelavi v'lo radeyu, v'yotza Tarbus Ra. Vavar chomesh avesh pos yom. Esav also went to Tarbus Ra because he wasn't punished. V'chein Adoniyahu ben Chagit, hayalo gagum etzelavi v'lo radeyu. That Adoniyahu also wasn't punished properly, and then he eventually rebelled against him in some way. Avshalom the same thing. There's another medrash.
Is it like somebody gets away with something, so they think that they can still always get away with things? Is that I'm trying to understand,
No, the limud is David didn't punish Avshalom properly in bringing him up. That if you spare the rod, what's the saying?
spoil the child.
Spare the rod, spoil the child.
Yeah, this part of the upbringing that occurred at David's house was not proper, which led to the problems. Now, on the other hand, it says Mizmor leDavid bevorcho mipnei Avshalom b'no. David sings a praise to Hashem when Avshalom is the one who's chasing him. What is it? It should be a mourning for David, not a Mizmor. So, Shema Eved Mamzer Hu Lo Chayaseli. Like Kivan the Chazad of Shalom Samech B'Shemach Yomer Mizmor. Meaning, Nosson Navi told him that you're going to be chased by enemies. So he didn't know who the enemy from his own family. So he thought maybe it's going to be Mazerim, maybe it's going to be people that are not really connected to him. When he saw it was Avshalom, at least it's connected to him. So the question is, that seems to be a worse punishment. If the one who's chasing you is your own son, to kill you, that's worse than you're getting a stranger trying to kill you. So some explain that David understood that, okay, once I'm makabel the oynish, I'll have full kapara, and I won't have any more oynish. We're talking about the ched of Batsheva, that all of these oynishes are coming about. So at least he thought that this was part of the kapara process. We're in the week of kapara.
Ernie, it also says ole boche, which are like mixed emotion. Both you're elated and you're crying. So David, I'm reading a commentary that says David said to himself, just like Yaakov Avinu fled from Esav, and just like Moshe fled after he killed the Mitzri, and Eliyahu fled, now I flee as they did. So he felt he was in good company. That allowed him to feel elated. That's ole boche.
Uh-huh.
What is it?
Now, this concept that that David is somewhat comforted by seeing that the person who rebelled against him was Avshalom, he might come to complete abandonment that Hashem is not with him. So HaKadosh Baruch Hu, each step is showing him various signs that Hashem is with him. And he shouldn't give up hope. We see the same concept when they sold Yosef. Because it says they sold Yosef to Yishmaelim. What do we need to know this? It says, Shein darkan shel aravim laseis el neft va'atron sherechan ra. Ulezen izdamnu b'samim shel yuzak mereach ra. Rashi over there says that these Yishmaelim, rather than normally, there was a lot of oil in the Arab lands, even thousands of years ago. So the Arabs would sell kerosene and they would schlep that with their camels, and it smelled bad. Rashi says it so happened that at the time that they took Yosef, there was perfume there. So what big deal? What kind of the chama is Yosef has just been sold by his brothers? So now he's smelling perfume and not kerosene. He's at a very low level. Why is this? Why is this a benefit for Yosef? So it's the same concept. The Reb Chaim Shmulevitz, who was the mashgiach in the Mir Yeshiva, when a person is a very low level, a person may come to complete Yeush, that HaKadosh Baruch Hu has abandoned him. At that time, at those times, HaKadosh Baruch Hu sends you a hint that I'm still with you. Similar to what's happened here with David. The David Yigid, Pasuk Lamed Aleph. David Yigid Leimer Achitophel Ba'Koishrim Im Avshalom. Achitophel is the main advisor of David. But now David is informed that Achitophel has joined Avshalom. Vayomer David Sakelna Datzat Achitophel Hashem. And David prays that Hashem should sort of negate any advice that Achitophel gives to Avshalom. But certainly a blow to David. Vahi David ba ad harosh asher yishtach b'Shem Elokim. David comes to a peak of a mountain. This was, Chazal say, some places where he used to daven when he on his way to Yerushalayim. V'nei likratei Chushai ha'arki. He sees a friend, Chushai, karua kutanto v'adam al rosho, also with torn clothing and ashes on his head. Immediately after the pasuk that tells us that Achitophel, David had two good friends, Achitophel and this Hushai Ha'arki. So immediately Hushai Ha'arki appears on the scene to give David hope, even after he hears that Achitophel has left him. It says, when it says Vahi David ba'ad harosh asher yishtach b'Shem Elohim, that David was going to bow down to Hashem. Says the Gemara in Kuf Zayin, Sanhedrin Kuf Zayin Amar Aleph, On Rav Amarav Bikesh David Lavod Avodah Zarah. He wanted to worship Avodah Zarah here. And Hushai now comes to say, what do you mean? David HaMelech, people are going to say about you worship Avodah Zarah? So the Meforsh Rashi explains that David was fearful that when the people saw Avshalom chasing him and might be successful, it would lead to a great chilul Hashem. So he decided, well, if I'm going to worship Avodah Zarah, the people will understand why Avshalom is chasing after me, so won't be. So Al Yisal Hashem Shemayim B'far Hesra. And Rashi brings the whole Gemara there in Sanhedrin. Hushai Ha'arki said to David, HaKadosh Baruch Hu lo aved dina below dina. Shemami bin Chalal. There's a reason why Avshalom is chasing after you. And David wanted to basically give up his life here and even his olam haba, so there wouldn't be any chil Hashem. Now, people ask, it can't be that David HaMelech wanted to worship Avodah Zarah here. So really, in essence, David's intent was l'shem shamayim. So Hushai Arki told them, you married a Yifas Toar, because Avshalom was born because he took the daughter of Maacha, Melech Geshur. And even though the Torah permits it, it can lead to children not correct. And people will understand why Avshalom is chasing after you. So Hushai Arki had to remind David, don't do this. Also, the Yerushalmi Brachos learns from here that everybody, when they daven, they have to have a kviyas makom. Just like it says, Vahi David Bad Rosh Asher Yishtach V'Sham. This was a place that he always davened. Every person in shul should have a place where he davens. It says Shulchan Aruch Orach Chaim Simin Tzadik Yikba B'Makom Tfilaso Shlo Yishanim Lo Tzarach. A person should daven in the same place every day. So Vayormelo David Im Avarta Iti V'Hayita Alay L'Masa. Again, he didn't want Hushai to have to go with him because he's elderly. It's going to be hard to travel. And then he also had in mind the same sort of espionage network that he's setting up. That maybe he wants Hushai Arki also to stay behind so he can send messages to David. V'mayir tashu, v'yamarta le'Avshalom avducha, ani hamelech hayeh, eved avicha, v'ani me'az, v'atani v'avdecha, by you staying behind, and you act as if you're the servant of Avshalom. And you are the servant of your father, but I will be your servant from now because you are sort of the mamale makam. You're the son that's taking over. This will help get rid of the various bad advice that Achitophel is going to give to Avshalom. Now, there is a debate. The Radak held that the Eitz of Achitophel was really to kill David, no mercy, and take over. But the Malbim says that Avshalom only wanted to become the king after the death of David, without carrying out a rebellion. He would be happy with that. He didn't really want to kill him. And he would either win the battle and convince David that Avshalom should rule, but he would leave David in his house with his own covet, but Avshalom would be the king, and he wouldn't feel bad that he had to murder his father. So Avshalom, according to the Malbim, was dancing between these two poles that really he didn't want to kill his father. But remember, Achitophel is the grandfather of Bathsheba. No, Achitophel is the grandfather of Bathsheba. And Bathsheba is his granddaughter. And because of the mice of Bathsheba, Achitophel hated David. And he really wanted David to be killed. And therefore, we're going to see in the next prokim, all of the advice that Achitophel gives to Avshalom is to end up to kill David. Hushai is going to give advice not to kill David, which really, says the Malbim, was in Avshalom's heart all along. So two different ways of understanding, Radak versus the Malbim. And David tells Hushai in Posuk Lamed Hey, I've also sent Tzadok and his children. the Kohanim. Vayikol davar asher tishma mibeit hamelech tagid letzadok levatar kodim. They are my spy network. Anything you hear, tell to them, they'll get the information to me. Hinei shamimam shnei bneihem, Achimatz letzadok v'Yonatan leVyatar. They each have sons. Ushlachtim biyadam elai kol davar asher tishma. They will be sent to me to also reveal to me what's going on. And Hushai accepts the tafkid. Vayavo Hushai re'ei David ha'ir. Hushai, David's friend, comes into the city of Avshalom Yavo Yerushalayim. And Avshalom comes to Yerushalayim as well at the same time. Any comments, questions?
Yes, Ernie, I have something very interesting. The Mayam Lois that ties together the story of the Fatoar. It says, Hushai says to David, HaKadosh Baruch Hu does not exact judgment without cause. Is not Avshalom's rebelliousness the outcome of his mother having been the Eshet Yifat Toar? Yes, David answers, but the Torah explicitly permits marrying a beautiful woman captive. That is true, but it's clear you haven't understood the Torah's juxtaposition of these topics in Devarim. Right after the story of the Eshet Yifat Toar, you have the story of the Ben Sorer or Moreh.
Right.
Anyone who marries an Eshet Yifat Toar is destined to have to father a rebellious, wayward son.
So would you consider Avshalom a Ben Sorer or Moreh? Is he considered that?
Not halachically, because remember, a Ben Sorer Moreh is a very, first of all, Chazal say lo haya v'lo nivra, it never happened.
Right.
Because the term, he has to be between 12 and 3 months. He has to eat. But it meant, this was what Hushai said when we, remember David, Chazal say, wanted to worship Avodah Zarah. Because the people, is going to be a chilul Hashem when the people see Avshalom fighting against me. So therefore, I'm going to make myself like I'm a sinner and worship Avodah Zarah. So Hushai responded, like Bernie explained, like we said before, that people are going to understand why Avshalom is chasing after you, because they know he was the product of Yefas Toar. The fact that there's juxtaposition in Parshas Kiseitse between the story of marrying a Yefas Toar and a Ben Sorer Moreh, why are they next to each other? Rashi there said, if you're allowed to marry a Yefas Toar, but if you're going to end up marrying a Yefas Toar, you're going to have a Ben Sorer Moreh, because it's not going to be brought up in a proper Jewish home with a proper Jewish wife who will teach all the various midos, and you'll end up with a rebellious son. So even though Avshalom wasn't classically a Ben Sorer Moreh, he ended up rebelling against his father. And so Hushai reminds David, don't have to worry that the people are going to come up with, it's a chilul Hashem. They understand. Fine, you married a Yefas Toar, but therefore you get a Ben Sorer Moreh out of it. You get somebody who's rebellious.
Okay, sounds good.
It's not a good thing. So it comes out with it was not a good thing that he married the Yefas Toar, David.
Yeah.
There are a lot of things that weren't good, this David.
But that's why he was
Also, it's very hard to grasp this notion that David would appear as if he's
Worshipping Avodah Zarah.
Sarah. I don't know. The whole thing doesn't.
As Ellen, as the reason that why Avshalom is going to chase him down and kill him.
Right.
Lose how much money.
Because he's deserving of it, because this was in David's mind. Why? So there shouldn't be chilul Hashem.
Yeah.
By the king being killed by his son.
He was willing to accept upon himself.
Yeah. Yeah, even to lose his oil of haba.
No. Wow.
Now, we see there's always two versions. Some want to really sanitize David HaMelech completely, right? And then some of the Meforshim are more realistic in depicting what David did and what his foibles might be. We see this throughout, whatever we've been learning, whether we learned about Shimshon or throughout, or Eli or Shaul, we see different mahalchim in how far to sanitize what David HaMelech did. I don't think there's been a lot of sanitization by most of the Meforshim.
Yeah, but
That-
you see
Go ahead.
that David HaMelech had a lot of nisyonos. I mean, a lot of tests that he went through. Not sure if he passed all the tests, but he had a lot of tests.
He didn't pass, and we learned from him about it being about tshuva. That remember we learned why is David HaMelech like from Yehuda, because he was moided by. You can't have a perfect person as your king. They have to have skeletons in the closet because to show that there's tshuva. Remember the Abarbanel held that Mamish Bathsheba was an Eshes Ish, to show to what extent you can become a Baal Tshuva. He was the only one that said that. Everyone else came up with the reasons that she was not an Eshes Ish. But like Walter wants to say, to show the power of being a Baal Tshuva.
To me, this is the raya that the Torah could only have been written by Hashem, because I think if humans were going to write the Torah, we'd make everything like very pretty.
Right, saintly. Everyone's a saint.
Right. And the fact that we're not it can't be man-made.
Right.
So Ernie, you talk about nisyonos. The question is, I mean, it forces us to think about the nisyonos that Avraham Avinu faced and managed to overcome all of the nisyonos.
And Yaakov.
Right.
So the Avos were different than. That's why I said, don't make yourself a melech. It's all.
Okay, so we are going to continue with the.
But he loved women, he was a bit immoral.
Next Perek Tez Zion.